What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another youth devotional. I am in a different place today, as you can see. This is not my room. This is my son Charlie's room. I am sitting in the rocking chair that I feel like I spend many hours in, which is totally fine with me. I'm trying to soak it all up while I can. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in here and sit in here for just a little bit today was because we're going to talk about influence. We're going to talk about impact, the impact you make. And we're going to refer to it as the you effect. Okay? You effect, me effect, the we effect. And probably you can think of somebody that you love to be around. Someone who has a positive impact all the time. They're always happy, or they're hilarious, or they're just always kind to everyone and makes a good impact. And as I was thinking and praying about this lesson, I just was continually brought back to the influence that we have on the little ones in our lives. And it doesn't have to be your child, okay? Just people younger than you looking up to you. And the interesting part about that is most of the time we don't know it. Which, think about that, the flip side, maybe you don't realize the effect that you have. Or maybe you just don't think about it. For some of you, maybe it's very obvious. Maybe you have a leadership position on the soccer team. Or maybe you are the oldest in your family and your siblings just really look up to you and you are very well aware of it. But maybe not, right? Maybe it's just not obvious to you. I want to tell you a little story. There was a younger guy that lived in my neighborhood as I was growing up. When it was nice outside, he would always go on a walk with his mom. Okay, so he was around my age, but it was always with his mom. And do you know why? Is because he was learning to walk again. He was totally paralyzed. He couldn't speak. He couldn't do anything. And so he was learning to walk again. And I can still see him walking in my neighborhood today. And I would yell out, "Hi, Scott." And it would take him about 10 seconds to be able to say hi back to me because he was learning to talk again as well. And I guarantee that he did not think about the influence that that had on me growing up and that it still has on me. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat. Either they're not aware or they have the mindset, I'm not an influencer. I don't have an impact on the people around me. People don't listen to me. They don't notice if I'm there. They don't notice if I'm not. So much like Scott, I want to tell you a story about another young guy who took part in something really awesome. But I'm gonna go outside and then we're gonna go and talk about the Bible for a second. This is my backyard. Those are not my cows, but they back right up to us. Maybe you can see the fence right there, but I just felt like this was a little bit of an interesting setting for the story that we're gonna talk about. And the story is in the book of John, chapter 6. And it is about a miracle that Jesus performed. But there's more to it than that. Jesus had tons of influence. We all know that. But this story is a little bit interesting in the details behind this. You know, that says, about that time, Jesus crossed over the Sea of Galilee and he went up on a mountainside and he sat down with his disciples. And when he looked up, there were tons of people following him, which is not abnormal. Right? They were either curious about what he was doing, they wanted healed, or maybe they were just following whoever was in front of them. Nonetheless, they were following him. And he looked at one of his disciples, Philip, and he said, basically, how are we going to feed all these people? Now, can you imagine if you're Philip? I would have been like, excuse me? How are we going to feed all these people? What do you mean? And aren't you supposed to have the answer to that question? But he said that as a test. And Philip basically was like, I don't know. It would take all kinds of money and all kinds of time to get food for all these people. Another one of Jesus' disciples said, I have a little boy who has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. That's all we've got. That's all we've got. One mom packed a lunch for a little boy going on a trek that day. And this is what we've got. I feel like today, if we had a bunch of people, I would have been like, you see, like, that's not enough. You got to do better than that. But no, Jesus said, okay, have all the people. Now there are 5,000 men, it says, accounted for, okay, which means women and children were not counted. So who knows? Lots more. So he said, have them sit down in groups and Basically, we're going to feed them. And so he broke the loaves of bread and he, gave thanks to it. Thank you, God, for this food. Thanks for sending it. And he told his disciples, go feed them. And they continued to hand out the loaves of bread and the fish. And people ate as much as they wanted. It wasn't like, hey, you get 2 bites and sorry about you if your belly's still growling. It's the best we can do. No, he fed them until they couldn't eat anymore, until they were fulfilled. And then he said, gather what's left. Don't waste anything. And they came back with 12 baskets. 12 baskets. There was an abundance. It blows my mind. Stuff like that. And those are the stories that we can read and read and read and read and read. And we still miss something. And I want you to think about something this time. And this is where I'm going to end. And we can come back and talk about it next time. Who is the real MVP in that story? Who is the person with the most influence? Who is the hero? Who is the one that stands out? You think about that. And we'll talk more about it next time when we come back.